Her friend, Shaye Groves, had made a bone-chilling confession about hurting her boyfriend. The police soon arrived at Shaye's door to investigate the claim.
Hello. You alright?
Yeah.
What's going on?
Sorry, the dog.
No. Don't close the door. What's going on?
What's what?
You Shay?
I am Shay.
Right. I've had some kind of strange, interesting call about somebody having had their throat slit.
It's the genre that's taken the world by storm, and while it might be a bit disturbing, there are some positives to it. For example, true crime raises awareness about the prevalence of certain offenses and encourages people to be more vigilant about their safety. It can even help to bring perpetrators to justice and shine a light on unsolved or underreported crimes. But beware, folks. Some studies have linked exposure to violent content, including true crime, to increased anxiety, fear, and desensitization to violence. Experts also warn of the potential for copycat behavior, as some people may be inspired by the criminals they learn about and attempt to imitate their actions. And speaking of true crime enthusiasts, have you heard of Shaye Groves? According to Lucy Paddock, a senior Crown Prosecution Service lawyer, this 27-year-old British woman's fascination with serial killers and true crime documentaries became an unhealthy obsession and might have played a role in the events you are about to hear. So buckle up, because we're about to dive into the horrific and perplexing case of Shaye Groves. Leigh Park is a suburban area located in the town of Havant, Hampshire, in the southern part of England. It is home to a diverse community of around 27,500 people. It is known for its green spaces, including Staunton Country Park, a popular destination for nature lovers and families. With stunning gardens full of ornamental ponds and fruit trees, you might think you've stumbled into a fairy tale. But keep an eye out for the foxes, badgers, and deer that roam around, because they're not the only wild things you might encounter in Leigh Park. Shaye Groves is a 27-year-old single mother from Leigh Park, England. People who knew her described Shaye as a woman with a rough past, a nonconformist with a peculiar fascination with true crime and serial killers. As recently as 2019, Shaye appeared as a typical happy mother baking cakes with her daughter in social media photos. However, her friends reported that she underwent a notable change beginning sometime in 2020. She would stay up late into the night, engrossed in true crime documentaries and books about the criminal underworld. She even owned mugs with the faces of serial killers printed on them. Her outward appearance also changed significantly, with tattoos and piercings adorning her face, neck, and body. Shaye's unusual interests were evident in her collection of knives, Viking axes, and a Celtic dagger. In addition, she had a coffin-shaped bookshelf in one room and framed pictures of notorious murderers like Ted Bundy, Jeffrey Dahmer, and Rose West hanging on her bedroom wall. Yet despite being seen as eccentric by those who knew her, she remained a devoted mother to her daughter. Her love for her child was evident in her social media posts, like the one where she expressed her pride in her daughter's independence and promised to always be there to guide her. Shaye and her daughter lived with her close friend Lauren White and her young daughter on Botley Drive. Although Shaye was fascinated with true crime, it was not her only obsession. She was also deeply interested in exploring and indulging in unconventional sexual preferences and had a particular infatuation with a man named Frankie Fitzgerald. Her passion for Frankie was strong and all-consuming, occupying a significant portion of her thoughts and time. Frankie Fitzgerald was a 25-year-old resident of Portsmouth and the subject of Shaye's obsessive devotion. He was the father of 2 small children. Frankie was described by friends and family as genuinely kind and loving. He and Shaye had their share of issues, as they had been dating on and off for 6 months. However, they did have a significant mutual interest, kink. They both enjoyed role play involving bondage, domination, submission, masochism, and knife play. At one point, according to court records, Shaye gave Frankie written permission to wake her up through sexual intercourse from the date of March 22nd until further notice. Prosecutors would later argue that Shaye's obsession with Frankie's performance in bed, along with the dangerous dynamic of illicit drug and alcohol use, may have played a role in the horrific events of July 17, 2022. In the early hours of Sunday, July 17, 2022, a gruesome crime took place in the quiet neighborhood of Botley Drive, Havant. Frankie Fitzgerald was found dead in Shay's bed. He had been brutally stabbed by Shay. She did not call 911 for help, instead choosing to video call a friend named Vicky. But instead of sounding panicked, Shay was said to be giggling as if she was enjoying the situation. Vicky described how Shay pointed the camera at Frankie's dead body and said, "I'm done with him." But why did she do it? And why was she laughing while looking at his body on video? During their video chat, Shay told Vicky she'd been looking through Frankie's phone and found he had messaged a 13-year-old girl on Facebook. As a result, she lost it. She reached for a dagger, which she kept under her pillow, slit his throat as he slept, and stabbed him in his chest 17 times. Shay then told Vicky she would clean up and bury him in the back garden. She ended the conversation by asking Vicky, "We're still friends, aren't we?" At that point, Vicky decided to notify authorities. The police service arrived later and noticed an incredibly strong scent of bleach from the doorway. Moments later, Shay, dressed in her robe, answered the door.
Hello? You alright?
Yeah.
What's going on?
Sorry, the dog.
No.
What's going on?
Don't close the door. What's going on?
Before.
You Shay?
I am Shay.
Right. I've had some kind of strange, interesting call about somebody having had their throat slit.
Okay.
So what's going on here?
No,
a dog,
that's
is it?
my dog's, yeah.
You're under arrest on suspicion of murder. You do not have to say anything, but it may harm your defence if you do not mention when questioned something which you later rely on in court. Anything you do say may be given evidence. The necessity for your arrest is for a prompt and effective investigation. Okay.
Oh, don't know what the fuck happened. He's dead. He's in my room. It's a mess. It really is a mess. I still took somebody's life. The knife I used is in the sink. The cut on his neck is pretty brutal. When I put it in his neck, he rolled over. Shaye Groves. A post-mortem analysis would later find that Frankie had been stabbed 17 times to the interior chest, twice to other chest areas, and 3 times to the neck. Shay initially told officers Frankie had attempted to hurt her, and she acted in self-defense. Soon after discovering Frankie's body, police arrested Shay and her friend Lauren in connection with the murder. The initial charges against Lauren were failing to give investigators the PIN code for her mobile phone. She was later released on bail and was scheduled to go on trial for not disclosing her phone's PIN code to authorities. However, no further information is available about Lauren's status at this time. On the other hand, Shay appeared in court on Wednesday the 20th, where she was formally charged with murder. The magistrate ordered Shay to appear at Winchester Crown Court the next day. It was a shocking turn of events. 2 close friends, roommates, and single mothers were at the center of a murder investigation. The events stunned the community, and many were left wondering what went wrong. It remained to be seen what evidence the prosecution would present to support the murder charge against Shay. The case promised to be a complex and harrowing journey through the criminal justice system, and it was clear that many questions still needed to be answered. The trial of Shaye Groves began in early January 2023. In court, the prosecutor, Stephen Perian, declared the defendant, by reading about and watching murder documentaries, was familiar with crime scenes, how to create a false narrative, and how to set up a false alibi. During the trial, prosecutors introduced evidence that revealed the extent of the depravity of Shay's crime. For example, the court heard that Shay video called Vicky hours after killing Frankie, showing Frankie's body wrapped in a duvet. She even sent her other videos of herself and the deceased. Witness testimony also revealed that Shay had fabricated an alibi by sending numerous messages to a friend and taking steps to clean up the crime scene. The court also learned Shay had a camera set up in her bedroom from which she would select and edit video clips to make it look like Frankie had abused her. However, prosecutors obtained the original footage showing the couple's relations were consensual. Vicky also testified that Shay had used similar tactics to threaten past boyfriends. She compiles evidence against everyone to see how she can use them as leverage, Vicky said of Shay. Vicky also talked about Shay's history of violence, stating she once used nail clippers to hurt a roommate. Mobile phone analysis revealed that while Frankie's body lay in her bedroom, Shay sent messages to another man inviting him to her home. This was a calculated attempt to create an alibi and deflect suspicion from herself. Later, when questioned about her actions, she tried to excuse her horrific crime by claiming she had discovered Frankie messaging a 13-year-old girl. However, investigators found that the girl was 17 and Frankie blocked her the moment she claimed she was underage. In closing, prosecutors declared the evidence was clear. Shaye had committed cold-blooded murder and gone to great lengths to conceal her crime. Her actions were not only premeditated, but they also revealed a disturbing lack of empathy and regard for human life. Shaye told the court her actions against Frankie were in self-defense. She said that after discovering messages between Frankie and what she believed was a 13-year-old, she threatened to publish videos of his alleged assault online. Frankie responded with rage, choking, and shoving her. She told the court that she couldn't breathe and her vision was becoming blurry, so she grabbed the nearest object and struck him in the throat. She also told the court that Frankie had developed a cocaine habit and would often get really aggressive when he was high. When questioned about her choice of room decorations, she said she thought they looked cool and wanted to shock people. The pictures are from an artist on Etsy. They're not photos, they are art. I thought they look pretty cool and it's different. I'm also a massive Disney fan, but I wanted my bedroom to be completely different and to shock people. Further, she described herself as a pagan and explained that the Celtic dagger she owned, allegedly used to stab Frankie, was intended for her rituals, adding that it strengthened spiritual connections. Shea Groves smiled as she was found guilty of murder on February 17, 2023, at the Winchester Crown Court. The verdict from the 11 jurors, composed of 7 women and 4 men, was unanimous. In contrast, she showed no emotion 5 days later, as she was sentenced by the court to life in prison with a minimum term of 23 years. A statement released by Frankie's family said Frankie was a loving father, brother, and son. He was the light of our lives, and we will miss his kindness, his happy smile, and the fun person that he was. Frankie had a large number of friends and family, and this news has left us all devastated. After the sentence was passed, members of the press assembled outside of the court to hear a statement by Detective Chief Inspector Rod Kenny.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name's Rod Kenny and I'm Detective Chief Inspector with Hampshire and Isle of Wight Police, and I'm here to read a brief statement after sentencing today. Shaye Groves was responsible for the shocking and sustained attack which tragically resulted in Frankie's death. We are pleased with the jury's verdict, and the sentence will ensure that Groves spends a significant period of time in prison for what she has done. Nothing can fill the void that has been left in the lives of those who knew Frankie, and our thoughts remain with his family, friends and loved ones. I would like to praise their courage and hope that this sentence will in some way deliver the justice they deserve. We will do everything we can to investigate and prosecute those responsible for these horrific crimes. The details disclosed in court were distressing for all to hear, and I am immensely proud of the tireless work of the local investigation teams, detectives, specialist teams, and our colleagues at the Crown Prosecution Service. Domestic abuse in all its forms will not be tolerated and remains a priority for Hampshire and the Isle of Wight Constabulary. I would urge anyone who may be a victim of these crimes to come forward and to tell the police. You will be listened to, believed, and supported. Thank you.
Less than an hour after receiving her life sentence, Shaye Groves was transported from Winchester Crown Court in a prison van to start the next 23 years of her life behind bars. Shaye Groves, who had glorified the serial killer, rose west, among others, by displaying their image on her bedroom wall, would experience a cruel irony when she was sent to prison by the same court that had previously sentenced West. This final twist of fate added another layer of tragedy to an already sad situation. As Shaye was transported to prison, she likely contemplated the irony of her predicament, possibly even realizing the disturbing nature of her admiration for a convicted murderer. Nonetheless, she was now forced to confront the reality of her choices and the punishment that awaited her. What are your thoughts on this case? Do you agree with the English prosecutor's assessment that Shaye Groves' fascination with true crime became an unhealthy obsession that somehow contributed to her actions on July 17, 2022? Or do you view Shaye as an eccentric but everyday person who snapped at the thought of her lover messaging someone else? As usual, feel free to share your thoughts below.